In a first high-level meet, U.S. Since the signing of S-400 missile deal with Russia, Indian Prime Minister Narendra Modi has met the U.S. Vice President Mike Pence on the sidelines of the East Asia Summit in Singapore. The talks between the two leaders focused strengthening bilateral relations and defense cooperation. The meeting also assumes significance in the wake of U.S. granting India a waiver for buying crude oil from Iran. And now let's cut live to these shots of Prime Minister Narendra Modi, his meeting with U.S. Vice President Mike Pence.
समान वैल्यूज को लेकर के चलने वाले लोग हैं। भारत मूलतः वसुधैव कुटुंबकम, वन फैमिली, वन फैमिली, इस मूलभूत चिंतन को लेकर के चल रहा है और उसकी पहली शर्त है शांति। आपने देखा होगा पीस कीपिंग फोर्स में भारत का कंट्रीब्यूशन बहुत अच्छा है, सक्रिय रहता है, प्रोएक्टिव रहता है और ऐसी स्थिति में दुनिया में चाहे आप नॉर्थ अमेरिका, कोरिया की चिंता आपके सामने है, ईरान की चिंता सामने है, शांति के लिए भारत हमेशा पुरस्कार रहा है। शांति की दिशा में होने वाले हर काम में भारत आपके साथ है और विश्व शांति ही विश्व प्रगति का सबसे बड़ा विलास है। और इसलिए मैं समझता हूँ अमेरिका और भारत मिल करके विश्व शांति के लिए, डेमोक्रेटिक वैल्यूज के लिए, सामान्य मानवीय के जीवन में बदलाव लाने के लिए, विश्व में जहाँ भी गरीबी की स्थिति है उसमें से मुक्ति दिलाने में हम आर्थिक क्षेत्रों में भी सहयोग मिला करके काम करेंगे। और हमें विश्वास है कि राष्ट्रपति ट्रंप के साथ मिल करके, आपके साथ मिल करके हमें बहुत खुशी हो रही है। और मैं जब अमेरिका में आपसे मिला था तब मैंने कहा था कि आपका होम स्टेट इंडियाना, उसका सिंपल अर्थ होता है इंडिया आना। मैं फिर आज दोहराता हूँ कि आपका भारत आना जरूरी है। बहुत दिनों से इंतजार कर रहा हूँ। तो इंडियाना के मूल निवासी आप और इंडियाना की प्रगति में आपने बहुत बड़ा योगदान दिया है। आपके अनुभव का लाभ भारत को भी मिलना चाहिए और इसलिए इंडिया आना है। जैसे एक बार मैं आपको निमंत्रण भी देता हूँ।
Excellency, I'd like to express my gratitude. We have this opportunity to meet again and do convey my very best regards to my dear friend and President Trump. I would especially like to express my gratitude to him. Yesterday in the White House, Diwali was celebrated, and this, in fact, is a matter of great pride for the Indian community, Americans of Indian origin. Also recently, the very devastating forest fires in California. I'd like to convey my condolences and also our deep sentiments. At this hour of crisis, whatever can be done for relief and rehabilitation, I know is being done. I would also, I'm happy to say that a person, an Indian woman, a lady of American of Indian origin. She was chosen, selected yesterday to occupy a very high judicial post by President Trump. This has actually filled Indian Americans with a sense of great pride, because when anyone is appointed to a judicial position in a country like the U.S., this is a matter of great prestige, and therefore I would like to express my gratitude to the United States, to the U.S. government, and to President Trump. India and the United States share same values. Fundamentally, India has always believed that the world is one family, Vasudhaiv Kutumbakam, and the first condition for that to happen is peace. You have noted, Excellency, that India has always contributed in a very big way to peacekeeping operations. Our role has been a big one, a very proactive one. Today, across the world, wherever there are concerns, whether that be North Korea, Iran, India has always been for peace. And along with you, we would like to work for world peace and world progress. And together, we will work towards global peace, for economic progress in the world, for poverty alleviation, and in various economic areas. India and the United States will work together with President Trump, with you, all of us. We would be happy to work together. And I do recall when I met you in the United States, I had said that your home state, Indiana, basically means in Hindi to come to India, India Ana. And so I reiterate my invitation to you. We've been waiting to welcome you in India. You must visit us. I'm very happy to be inviting someone who is from Indiana, originally from Indiana. We would like to benefit from your experience, and therefore, Excellency, allow me to renew my invitation to you to visit India.
Well, thank you, Prime Minister. I expect I will, Indiana. Thank you very much. Thank you all.
Thank you.
So that was Indian Prime Minister Narendra Modi meeting the United States Vice President Mike Pence, where he also invited the Vice President to India, saying that the Vice President belonged to the state of Indiana in the United States. That also translated on to coming to India in Hindi, meaning India Ana. That was his way of extending his invite to the U.S. Vice President. The Indian Prime Minister also emphasized on India's core value of peace, stating that his aim was to usher in peace at a global level. He also mentioned peace in terms of global peace for Korea and Iran. And to join us in this discussion, I have with us Ambassador Arun Singh, who joins me live from New Delhi. Ambassador, a very warm welcome. We meet again. So we just heard what Prime Minister Narendra Modi had to say to Vice President of the United States, Mike Pence. He also very warmly extended an invite to him, at the same time mentioning the message of global peace, keeping the issue of Korea and Iran in mind.
Yes, I think it was emphasizing not just the importance of the bilateral relationship, but also the role that India plays in the global context. Because one of the things that sort of persuades the US to look at India with greater attention is the equity that India brings in terms of global peace and stability issues. And again, India-US have a lot of convergence of interests as far as the Indo-Pacific is concerned. So that's why the meeting between the two is taking place in the context of the East Asia Summit. But in terms of the comment that the Prime Minister made, I wanted to draw your attention to another dimension. He referred to the Diwali celebration done by President Trump in the White House. He also referred to an Indian American being appointed by President Trump, or being nominated by President Trump to a judicial post. So this recalls the important role that the Indian origin diaspora plays in the United States, and increasingly in terms of US society, politics, and in the US economy. And this is an element that can work to bring India and the US closer together. And it's a growing role, because now the size of the community is almost 4 million strong, and they have a very visible presence in all walks of US life. So this is a reflection of that, and I think that's why the Prime Minister referred to that.
Right. Ambassador, also this meeting happens in the backdrop of a lot that's happened between India and the United States. There's the S-400 triumph deal with Russia that is in the backdrop. Then there is the waiver on the Iran sanctions that India has just got. And not to forget that President Donald Trump's India visit still stands cancelled. So how do you analyze this entire meeting at the moment?
So I wouldn't say that, the President Trump's visit is cancelled in a sense. I mean, there was some talk apparently about his coming for Republic Day, and that is not happening. But the statement that I saw from the US talked in terms of visit taking place at another time that is mutually convenient. So yes, certainly not in January. But it is important to maintain a pace of high-level engagement between the two countries, because a dialogue at that level is important for addressing some of the difficulties that will inevitably arise from time to time. And after the June 2017 visit of Indian Prime Minister to the US, a structured dialogue between the two at that high level has not quite happened. And therefore, the meeting with the U.S. Vice President was important. The U.S. Vice President himself has been playing an active role. He has a certain equation with President Trump. He's supportive very strongly of President Trump, who is otherwise controversial, and has been active also in terms of the political platform of the Republican Party. On 4th October this year, he made a very major policy statement on China in terms of how the US looks at the growing Chinese economic, political, military challenge and how it intends to deal with that.
Right.
And therefore, given that his presence at the East Asia Summit in Singapore takes on a certain salience, and a conversation in that framework is important. Also, if you notice, along with the Prime Minister, our Minister of Trade and Industry, Mr. Suresh Prabhu, was also present in the meeting, reflecting that the economic issues are also important in the bilateral relationship, because that's an area where we continue to have differences. The US has imposed tariffs on steel and aluminum imports from India.
Right.
It is reviewing the GSP benefits to many Indian products. Some of them have now been taken off the GSP list. It wants more market access in India. It has differences on intellectual property issues. So these are being discussed by our Ministry of Commerce and the US counterparts. And these issues have not reached a resolution so far. So this certainly will be an ongoing area of discussion between the two.
Absolutely, Ambassador, couldn't agree more. Some very, very key issues highlighted by you over there, including trade relationship, which is at a very tricky juncture for India and the United States. Thank you for highlighting it all out to us and giving us your precious time. Thank you so much for joining us here on Wion.